Hey everyone, a different kind of setup today for a special video that we've put together where I'll be going over 20 different types of reasoning question just in time for the Kent test this year. Let's get stuck in. Let's get started by working through some verbal reasoning questions, and the first question type I've put together here are where we have to find a four-letter word hidden between two words in a sentence. We have the sentence at the top and we have to work through this systematically. So is there a four-letter word hidden between the and horse? The, that's not a word. He-ho, that's definitely not a word. And iho is not a word either. You work through this systematically. You go through all of the possible options. You'll see here we have R-S-E-E, that's not a word. S-E-E-N, and if we were to write that out, we should hopefully be able to see that seen is a word. We would stop there in the test and put B as our answer. So work systematically, look for all the possibilities, and then when you find a word that you know is a word, save time, write it down, and go to the next question. Next up, the next type of question is this one on the board, which you can see here, where we're given 5 words at the top, and 3 of them go together in a certain way. There's a kind of link between 3 of these words, and our job is to put the 2 that are the odd ones out. So let's have a look and start exploring what could the link be between these words. We've got car and coach, and the trick here is to look out for those homophones, those words which are spelled the same but have more than one meaning. Because I know car is a vehicle, I know a coach is a vehicle. Well, can I find a third word that matches with coach and car? Trainer, boot and sandal, they're not vehicles, so it can't be that. And at this point I'm thinking, I'm pretty sure coach has more than one meaning. A coach as in a large vehicle that transports people, but also a coach as in someone in sports maybe, which helps us get better. So it could be a coach in that respect. So let's think about that now. Can we see any other words which use coach in that way? Well, we have trainer. A trainer can help you improve in a sports environment. So we could have coach and trainer. Okay. Again, let's think, is there a third word? Because we can't have just 2 that are matched. We have to have 3. So we have a coach, a trainer. I'm looking for a word like manager or someone who might fit the bill, and I can't see anything. So we have to keep going. Let's look at trainer now. Is there another way that we could interpret trainer? Well, there is. It's the thing that goes on your foot, a trainer. So it's a type of shoe. Okay, so if this is a type of shoe, are there 2 others that would make a group of 3? A boot is a type of shoe, and a sandal is a type of shoe. So we found our connection. Those 3 words are connected because they are footwear. That means that the odd ones out are A and B. So our answer on the test paper would be A and B. Right, moving on. Next up, we have this. It's sentence completion. How do these words go together? We've actually got a video that details this in much more detail. So if you do get stuck, have a look at that on our YouTube channel. Chef is to cook, eggs and oven. As builder is to castle, helmet and build. Well, we need to complete this sentence in the best possible way. A chef cooks. That's what a chef does. So let's look at the words that go with builder. Is there a word there which tells me what a builder does? A builder castles? No. A builder helmet? No, that's what they wear. A builder builds. Yes, a builder builds. A chef cooks and a builder builds. Those 2 go together. It completes the sentence in the same way. So we would mark A and Z on our paper and move on. The next question type, and we're going to go through a lot of questions in this video. We have got 2 brackets with 3 words in each, and it's our job to find 2 words that are most similar in meaning. One from the first bracket and one from the second bracket. So let's work systematically. The first word in the first bracket is book. Is there a word that means book in the other bracket? End? No. Brush? Absolutely not. And read? Well, I guess they're linked, but that's not what the question is asking. The question is asking for words that mean the same thing. Book is a noun and read is a verb. They can't possibly mean the same thing. They're different word classes. So we move on, we get rid of book. Hair end, hairbrush. Well, hairbrush is a thing, but it doesn't mean the same thing. Hair isn't the same as a brush. And hair read, nope, can't be hair, so it must be finish. And we can see hopefully straight away that finish and end are both synonyms. They mean the same thing. We put C and X on our paper and we move on. Next question type. We have another set of brackets, one on the left, one on the right, and there are 3 words in each again. And this time we're trying to find the words that are the most opposite in meaning. So antonyms. So we start here And again, our trick for this question, as is the same with so many in verbal reasoning, is the homophones, the words which are spelled the same but have more than one meaning. Left here, if I was thinking of the opposite, I would think right, but that's not there. But also left, if we left something in a room, we left it behind. Now, what's the opposite of leaving something behind? Well, we would take it with us. So left and taken are in fact the words here that are opposite in meaning. We would put down A, we would put down Y, and we get a mark. Now, little tricks in this question, fed and up, well, they seem to go together, but it's not answering the question, they're not opposite in meaning. And when you run, you do travel, but again, it's not answering the question. So for these question types, be sure to check what are they asking you to find. The answer here would be left and taken. Okay, moving on. Another question type and another set of brackets with 3 words in each. This time, we need to find the 2 words that go together to make a compound word. That's a word which is made up of 2 separate words and makes a brand new one in itself, and it works on its own. So let's have a look. Gold works systematically. Does gold go with the other words in the other bracket to make a new one? Gold table, gold bar. Well, a gold bar is a thing. But is it a compound word? A brand new word that works on its own? No. Gold ore doesn't work. Do table, definitely not. Do bar doesn't work. This is one of my favourite answers for this type of question. And do and or actually make a word when we put them together. And this is where our technique of writing down the possible word really helps. Because do or, as you can see on the screen, becomes door. The sounds change, that's the trick, but the answer is B and Z. The word is door. Move on to the next question. Another verbal reasoning type, and we have loads to get through. So this here is a tricky one, and this is one that we find children do struggle with. So let's go through this carefully. What we're given again, 2 brackets, very common in the Kent test to be given 2 brackets, but this time in the centre of it, we've got a square bracket, and we've got a new word, and the word is digs. Okay, so we need to make the word digs using the 2 words on either side. And here's how we do it. So dig starts with a D. Where could that D have come from out of golfers and digger? There's only one place it can come from. It's the first letter in the second word. So we go over to our code, we find the first letter in the second word, which is P, and we write it in. Our word must start with P. And actually we can get rid of B and we can get rid of D straight away. Then we go on to the second letter, which is I. Where could the I come from? Well, it can only come from the second letter in the second word. So we go over to our answer on the right-hand side. We find out the second letter in the second word is an O. We write that in and we have P-O. And we can get rid of C, pets. So we're down already to just pots or pole. Well, let's have a look. The G. Where could the G have come from? Here's where they try and trick you. The G could come from the first word in golfers. It could come from the third letter, in digger, and it could come from the fourth letter in digger as well. There are 3 possible places where that G could come from. Well, let's try all possibilities on our side. So that means it could be a T, it could be a C, or it could be a K. So it's either P-O-T, well, that would make sense with pots. P-O-C, well, that's not there at all because I'm looking for an L or a T, so it can't be the C. Or it could be P-O-K, and again, that's not an option, so it can't be the K. It must be the T. P-O-T, and I actually don't even need to find out the 4th letter, because it can't be pole now, it must be pots. We put down A, and we move on to the next question. Next question type, moving on again. We have the simple question type here that we have covered in the past. Quite simply, we need to find one letter that fits in those gaps and makes 4 new words. The trick here is that it must make 4 new words, not 2, not 3, but all 4. And you'll notice they'll put in letters which could work. Ran is a word, but nin isn't. Ray is a word, but yin isn't. Wrap is a word. Pin is a word. This looks good. Sorp. No, that wouldn't work at all. So it can't be P. And then we finally get to T, and that would be our answer. Rat and tin, sort and table. Just be super careful when we're going through these question types that we make 4 new words. Next one. Here again are brackets, the favourite thing that in the verbal reasoning test, to put some words in brackets. This is why it's so important to read the instructions carefully on the question. We are given a bracket with second and hour. We are given a bracket with tiny and small. And in this question type, we need to find one word out of our 5 which fits into both of these brackets well. And again, we're looking at homophones. Is there a word which links with second and hour that could also link with tiny and small? It has to work in both. Day works in second and hour because it's a measure of time, but day does not work with tiny and small, so it can't be day. It has to work in both. Little could work in tiny and small, but it's not a measurement of time, so it can't be little. And here's where we see the clever trick. This word is minute, and minute would fit into with a measurement of time, but it also can be read as minute, which is another word for small or little or tiny or small. So it can fit in there. So minute and minute can fit into both these brackets. Our answer is C because it's the only word that can go into both and still work. Next one. This is a strange sight in the verbal test to see numbers, but it does come up. So here we've got a sequence, and I've got 2 sequences to go through. I'm going to go through this one a bit more quickly because it's quite a simple one. +2, +4, +6, +8, so the final jump must be +10. That gives us 35. Our answer is B. But the one I really want to have a look at is this type of sequence. Now, at first glimpse, this looks like nonsense. It looks like we can't possibly see what's happening each time. We've got +4, +1, +3, +2, +2, +3. It's all over the place. And what we really need to be careful of in the Kent test is they can try and trick us. And here's what we call a double sequence. It skips over. Can you see here how we go from 4 to 9 +5 to 14 +5 to 19 +5, whilst simultaneously at the same time we have a second sequence. It's the 4 times table. 8 to 12, 12 to 16. So our next gap must be 16 +4 using our double sequence rule. It's going to be 20 and the answer is B. Watch out for those double sequences. Next question type. How many HS did it take to travel home? Well, in this question, we are missing a 3-letter word. A 3-letter word has been taken out of HS and put down below as the options, and we have 5 to choose from. Now, which of those 5 options can we put back into HS and it makes a word that fits the sentence? So how many HS? The first thing to do is to try and get some context of the question, of the sentence. How many HS did it take to travel home? Well, we're thinking of a time, I assume. So hours comes to my head straight away, but I'm going to just see if that's there. We have hairs. Hairs we could fit in there, like the rabbit. That doesn't make any sense. Hails. No, can't be those 2. Hands. How many hands did it take to travel home? I mean, it's not the best fit. I don't think I could make that work, even though hands is a word. Aha. Hour. We can put hour in between H and S and it makes hours. How many hours did it take to travel home? The context works. It's made a new word. Those are the 2 things that we need to get a mark. We're going to put down D and we're going to move on to the next question. And here we have, towards the end of our verbal reasoning questions, the famous alphabet codes. Now, these look daunting, but trust me, with a systematic approach, I'm going to solve them for you and you can do it too at home. If the code for moon is SUUT, what is the code for fed? Well, it's quite simple. We need to try and figure out what happened to these letters. M changed into S. So go to M in your alphabet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a +6 move to go from M to S. Okay, how about O to U? Let's just double check if that's still +6. Let's do O to U. O. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes. Okay, so we can safely say that these letters are moving up 6 places. Let's do the same to fed. So let's go to F, move them up 6 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have an L. Our code starts with L. Same with E. Well, we know E is 1 across, so our answer should be 1 across from L. In fact, we can do this quickly. It's going to be a K, isn't it? And then the same for D, 1 further across. So we're going to move 1 further across up the alphabet and we're going to get a J. L, K, J. Let's check it's there. And it is, it's B. Work systematically, count the jumps. It's going to help us on our next couple of question types too. Let's have a look. So here we have it again. DP, FM, HJ, JG, what comes next? It looks like nonsense at first, but systematic approach, we're going to get there. Let's look at the first letters first. D goes to F, goes to H, goes to J. D goes to F, goes to H, goes to J. Hopefully you can see at the top we're skipping over a letter. So let's skip over a letter from J, and we end up with L. So we can get rid of A, we can get rid of B, and we can also get rid of E. Down to 2 already. Now let's look at the second letters. P goes to M, goes to J, goes to G. P goes to M, goes to J, goes to G. This time we're going backwards, -3 jumps. So let's go -3 from G, we're going to end up at D. So you have LD, we're going to circle that, simple as that. Count the jumps, first letter, count the jumps, second letter, solve the code. Now we do have one more type of alphabet question. Now this is the different way that they can show you, but it's the same concept. So let's use those jumps. Again, we're going to dive straight into it. X, Y goes to ZU. So let's figure out the code. X goes to Z, we find X, we find Z. That is a +1 jump. So our first letter goes +2 jump. Then we're going to go from Y to U, and we have Y here, and we're going to go backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a -4 jump. Minus if we're going left down the alphabet, plus if we're going right. Let's apply it to our code. M, we're going to do +2 as it's the first letter. 1, 2, so it starts with an O. N, we're going to go -4. So we're going to go to N, we're going to do -4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a J, O and J, using the same logic as we got given in the first type of code there. OJ is the answer, C is OJ, we mark down C, and we move on. And the last type, well, 2 types left, but you see what I mean about the last one. It's slightly different, but last one, that's a traditional type of verbal reasoning question, and we have to build up another code. It's letters and it's numbers. So let's have a look. We are given 3 4-digit numbers, we're given 4 4-letter words, and what we need to remember here is we've got to build up a code to solve these questions. We have done a really detailed video on this, so if you find this a bit tricky, have a look on our YouTube page again. We've got a really detailed video there, but I'm going to solve this one quickly for you. What we need to do is look at the numbers first. Now, what numbers do we notice come up more than once? Well, I can see straight away, I can see a 3 and a 3 in the same word. So is there a word at the top which has a letter that comes up twice in the same word, in the second position and in the 4th position? Now, dent is ET, that doesn't work. Tend is ED, doesn't work. Data is AA, yes. Let's just double check the last one doesn't work. ET, no. Okay, so the 3 must be A. It must be, it's the only one that comes up twice in that pattern above. So this must be data. And actually, that is going to crack my code really quickly. I'm going to fill in all of the D's now. The 2's are D. All the 3's are A, well that's done. The 1's are T, so let's fill in the 1's as T. And the 3 have already done there. Now, this is really useful because now I know T and D, this one is tend. And if I know 5 is E and 6 is N, I can put in dent. I've cracked the code immediately. So just make sure you ask yourself those questions. Which numbers come up more than once? Match them up with the letters that come up more than once. Now we've got this code. This question will take us 10 seconds to solve. Find the code for the word tent. Well, let's look above. T is 1, E is 5, N is 6, and then T is 1. 1, 5, 6, 1. The answer is E. Now, these next type of questions come up every single verbal reasoning test that you have, and it's 1 or 2, and it's called a logic puzzle. Now, the best way to approach logic puzzles is to take notes. So I'm going to live solve this one for you. I'm going to show you how I take notes to see what the answer is going to be. Now, I'm just going to look at the question at the bottom really quickly. Which team is in 5th place? Okay, so let's read. A local football league consists of 5 teams. Well, 5th would be last then, so I'm looking for last. I'm looking for the person that's the lowest. Okay, the team that's the lowest. Each team are placed from 1st to 5th, sure. Team 3 has fewer points than Team 2. So I'm just going to write Team 3 lower than wherever Team 2 will be. So Team 2 is higher. I don't know where exactly, but I've done it higher and lower. Team 4 has fewer points than Team 5, but more than Team 2. Well, if Team 4 has more than Team 2, it's above. And Team 4 has fewer than Team 5. So Team 5 are above Team 4. Okay, that's good. Let's see where Team 1 go. So the answer is either Team 3 or Team 1. Let's see if Team 1 are low or high. Team 1 has as many points as Team 2 and Team 5 put together. Well, Team 2 and Team 5 are there. So that means team 1 has more points than team 5 because you add on team 2. So team 1 are actually first. Just from taking notes, I've solved this question. It must be team 3. Now that is all of the different types of verbal reasoning question that we could go through with you right there. And that's around about 16, 17 different questions. So, you know, if any of them you found tricky, go back to them, have a look at my explanation again, listen to what I'm saying, try and use my tricks and my tips, and then maybe have a go at the sheet you're having to go at home and see if they can help you be more successful. We are going to move on now. And we're going to go, in fact, onto some non-verbal reasoning types of question. And these are the shapes and the patterns. So we've got fewer question types this time, but it does mean that I'll be going through 2 questions for every single question type. And I will be going quickly, as lots of these we have already got detailed videos for you on our YouTube channel. So the first type of question we've got are classic code questions. We've done these so much on our Facebook page, on our YouTube page. I'm going to go over these really quickly. So for these questions, we look at the top letters first. What's the same and what's different? We have Q and Q. What's the same about those shapes? Well, Q must mean that we have a plus sign. So Q equals plus. Okay, D is also the same. So D, what's the same about those 2 shapes? Well, they're crosses. So Q at the top is a plus, D is a cross. So I'm going to put D for my shape as it's a cross. So I can get rid of that one, I can get rid of that one, and I can get rid of that one. I'm down to 2 answers already. Then we look at the bottom letter. I have J, I, M, N. They're all different. So we're going to ask ourselves the question, what is different about all of those shapes? And the only thing that's different is the actual line itself. So the bottom letter is the line itself. J is a bold line, I is a thin line, M is a double line, and N is a dotted line. And R1 matches with M, which is a double line. So I'm going to say DM, I'm going to circle that, final answer. Let's try it again with a different question type. We have X, Y, H, P. What's different about all those shapes? Well, that's going to be the shading. So the top letters showing me the shading. That's the only thing that's different every time. And the bottom, I do have 2 letters that are the same to compare. And I hope you notice there that those O letters must represent the position of the triangle. So O is high, V is in the middle, and then U must be at the bottom. Our shape is in the middle, so it must be a V. Going back to the shading at the top, it matches P. So the answer is PV. Now the next type are very similar, and it's going to be the exact same logic, only this time there are 3 letters and the layout is slightly different. Let's get straight in. Looking at the first letter, we have A, B, and B. Well, what's the same about these 2 bottom shapes? What could B be representing? The only thing that B could represent is the shape itself. So B is almost like an oval kind of shape, and A must be a rectangle. Well, our shape is a rectangle, so I'm going to say A. Get rid of B, get rid of C, get rid of D. Then I'm going to go into the second letter, and this time we have 2 F's the same, the top 2. Now what's the same about the top 2? The only thing that's the same about these top 2 and different about the bottom shape is the outline. So the second letter must represent the outline. Now our shape is dotted, you can see there. The bottom shape is dotted, so it must be a G. So it's AG. And hopefully you can see I can put down E straight away because A was AF. And I know it's not F, so I can move on, save some time, put down E. Let's look at the bottom one. W and W. What's the same about those 2 shapes? They both have 1 circle. X must mean 2 circles, and Y must mean 3 circles. Our shape has 3 circles. I'm going to put Y and get rid of those answers. Next letter. I'm working quickly now as we're getting the hang of it. F and F. What's the same about those shapes? H and H, what's the same about those shapes? Hopefully you can see the second letter is going to represent the plus or the cross. Now that means that H is a plus, and it means that F is a cross. Our shape's a cross, so it's going to be YF. I can get rid of option A. Now I will have to look at the third letter to see if it's D or E. We have G and G. What's the same about these 2 middle shapes? N and N. What's the same about the 2 outside shapes? It is the lines itself. Are they dotted, which means N, or are they a solid line, which means G? Our shape is a solid line, so it's YF and G. So the answer is E. Next up with non-verbal reasoning, we have the odd one out. And for these questions, we have to think which one is different to the other 4. So those other 4 have to be the same somehow. And then the only one that's different is the odd one out. So let's have a look at the top question here. We've got dots in this shape. Maybe if you've got dots, you're the odd one out. Well, can't be because C has dots and D has dots. Okay, let's look at B. Could it be stripes? Stripes, that means you're the odd one out, right? No, because E has stripes. So it can't be to do with what's inside the shape, because we don't have an odd one out. Well, let's think about the shape itself. We have a star here, so A and B are stars, D is a star, E is a star. 4 are the same, that's all stars. The odd one out is C because it's a triangle. So the answer there is C, it must be the odd one out. Let's have a look at the next question. Still odd one out. What's different about these ones? Well, this is a rotation type question. So all of these shapes you can see here, A, B, C, D, and E, they all look very similar, but one of them is the odd one out. Now, obviously the size doesn't matter, it's all different sizes. And we're going to think of it like this. A is almost like an R shape. Can you see that? It's like an R shape. So let's see if the rest are like R shapes. Well, here we have an R shape, that works. If we kind of crane our neck around, if this was real life, we could turn the paper, but I can see that that would be an R shape as well if it was rotated around. Here we have, again, another R shape. Can you see that? If this was the base, it would make an R shape. So all of these make R shapes if this was the base. Actually, this one doesn't. Because if this was an R shape, craning my neck again, it would have to go out that way. And it doesn't, it goes out this way. E is the odd one out, because it's the one that's been flipped over like a mirror. The rest have just been rotated. A, B, C, and D are all the same shape, rotated. E has been mirrored, so E is the odd one out. Another very similar question type now, and it's the most alike. So we're using the same kind of language. What's the same? What's different? Which one fits? Okay, so we did odd one out before, now we're doing most alike. And this one is different in that it gives you two shapes, and you've got to start to build up a set of rules about what constitutes getting into this group. So what makes us get into a group with a triangle and a four-sided parallelogram there? Well, it can't be the number of sides. So the number of sides doesn't matter. I'm going to start building up a list here. The X doesn't matter, the sides, that doesn't matter. You can still get into the club, you can still be alike these shapes with different numbers of sides. So the sides don't matter. What does matter? What's the same about them? Well, you have to have at least one black circle. You have to have at least one black circle. You can have two, you can have one. That seems to be okay, but you definitely need at least one. So let's start looking through our shapes. Well, A, we have a black circle, and it's curved. Does that matter? Well, none of these sides are curved. I'm not sure. I'm going to go over to the next one. B, that definitely would fit, wouldn't it? Because that's a triangle. We've already got a triangle in there, and it's got black circles in the middle. So B could be an answer. C can't be because it has a white circle, and we can see here there are no white circles at all. D can't be, it has a white circle, and E for the same reason. So now we need to think what fits best out of A and B. We need to dive deeper. Well, hopefully you can see that both our shapes on the left have only straight sides. So the best fit is B, as that also has straight sides. A has curved sides, and if we're looking for the best fit, I can justify B and the triangle much more than A. So the answer is B for that one. Let's have a look down below and use the same logic. What matters here and what doesn't matter? Well, they're both squares, so I think we can safely say you have to be a square to get in. They're both grey in shading, so I think, again, that rule is you have to be grey in shading to get in. What doesn't matter? Well, the size, clearly, and the border, because they're different. And they're still different, but they're both still in the group. So the size and the border don't matter, but what we do have to find is a grey square. So this should be really simple. Can't be A, can't be B, that's not a square. C is a square, but it's not grey, so I'm going to get rid of C. D, it's grey, but that's not a square, that's a rectangle, and it's not a regular rectangle, which would be a square. And E, therefore, is the answer. It's a square, it's grey, the size doesn't matter, the border doesn't matter, E is our answer. And those are most alike questions. Let's move on to our next non-verbal reasoning type. These questions we call transformation, and what we have to do is build up a set of rules about what happens to this shape on the left as it transforms into this shape also given on the left. And once we've built up those set of rules, we need to apply those rules to our given shape here and figure out of the 5 options which one fits best. Well, the top one is quite straightforward. The shapes don't change, there's no rotations, there's no size changes. Quite simply, the only thing that changes are the colours. They invert. So black goes to white and white goes to black. So we need to look at our shape here, Find a shape that stays the same, but the colours are inverted. And hopefully this should be a really quick find. It's B. Let's apply that to the next question and have another look. What happens here as we move from this first shape to the second shape? Well, firstly, the size. The size increases. And secondly, the outline. The outline goes from solid to dotted. So we're looking at this shape now. We need a bigger version of that exact shape with the outline dotted. And again, it should be a quick fix now. We've built up our rule. The answer is A. And that's how we solve transformation type questions. The next type of question, and we're getting towards the end now. These are called sequences. Now in these sequences, you might have seen them before in a previous video we've done. We've built up quite a lot now. So if again you find these extremely tricky or the explanation here doesn't quite go far enough for you, make sure you check out our other YouTube videos. Now let's look at the top, and our job here is to figure out what's happening every time we move across one in our sequence. Well, the first thing that strikes me is we go from white to grey to white to grey. So our shape must be white in the fifth place. So that means we can get rid of B, we can get rid of C. So now we're left with A, D, and E. Okay, what else is happening? Well, we go from a triangle, which is 3 sides, a square, which is 4, a pentagon, which is 5, a hexagon, which is 6. We're going up 1 each time in terms of the number of sides. So I need to find a 7-sided shape. It can't be A, it can't be D, it must be E. So I'm going to put E as my answer. It goes up 1 in terms of the number of sides, and it is white. So that's going to be one that fits the sequence. Let's have a look at the bottom one. Well, let's isolate one feature here because this can get quite complicated. 2 things going on. So let's look at this triangle. We have a black triangle at the top left, black triangle at the bottom left, blank, and then it's back in the bottom left, and then it goes into the top left. Now, hopefully you can see here, the only reasonable explanation would be to be back in the top left. It's going top left, bottom left, top left, bottom left, top left. And also, does the color ever change? No, it's always black. So I'm going to shade it in. I need a black triangle in the top left. Now, what answers can I get rid of? I can get rid of B, get rid of C, and I can get rid of D. So I have A and E left. Well, I mean, just looking at those answers, it should be quite obvious it's going to be A. Let's just double check. 1 line, 2 lines, 4 lines, and 5 lines. Well, hopefully it's obvious. We should have 3 lines down the bottom. It must be A. That's how we solve sequence type questions. And finally, our last question type for this mammoth video, and I really hope you found it useful. Before I go on to this, I just want to say thank you for making it this far, and be sure to use this video as a go-to if you ever get stuck on a reasoning style question. Hopefully we can help out, and if you want more detail, check our YouTube page. Like I said, we've done loads of videos so far going into much more detail. So let's have a look. We are looking at grid questions. Now these are very similar to sequences, but they also have a bit of transformation question about them. So let's have a look. I think the best way to do this is to dive straight in. So let's look up here at question 1 at the top. We are given a grid with one of the pieces missing. We need to think what best fits in there. Now there's a number of ways of looking at these grids. We can look down them, we can look across them, we can even look diagonally, and sometimes we have to look at the whole picture for symmetry or rotations, etc. So we have to have a really open mind here to try and spot the pattern. Well, what's happening? Well, here we have an arrow facing left that's shaded, and it moves across to an arrow pointed up that isn't shaded. So what's happened to the arrow? Well, firstly, it's rotated 90 degrees clockwise, and secondly, the colour has swapped from black to white. So with our shape moving across, we're going to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, so it'll be facing that way. So we can get rid of A, we can get rid of C, we can get rid of E. Well, there's still 2 options. We have to invert our colour. Black went to white, so white will have to go to black. Now we've got our 2 rules. Can you see how it's almost like transformation and sequences in one? And that means that our answer has to be D. So let's apply this to the bottom, and it's slightly different this time. This one is going to be a set kind of question, so we need to complete the set. So let's have a look across and have a look down. If we look across here, you'll notice we have a pentagon, a circle, and a triangle. Look across the bottom, we have a circle, a triangle, and a pentagon. So let's look across the middle. We have a circle, a pentagon. Well, we're obviously missing a triangle to complete the set. So I'm going to get rid of A, I'm going to get rid of D. Now the other thing is to look down. Let's look down here. We have 3 large shapes. We have in the middle 3 medium-sized shapes. We have at the end 2 small shapes. Well, To complete the set, we need another small shape. So we're going to need a small triangle. It can't be B, it can't be E, it must be C. And that's our answer. Now just remember, the Kent test is always throwing up new question types, but as long as you're using the logical thought processes we've talked about, working systematically, taking down notes and spotting those patterns, you will be successful in this paper. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to share this video with anyone who you think might find it helpful. We'll see you next time.